Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh goes viral for saying that women should not be allowed to go on patrol or leading police departments. A woman goes on to say that the American Eagle Sydney Sweeney advertisement brought back trauma. The PELOSI Act passes committee as some senators try to stop insider trading among politicians. Kash Patel finds Russiagate documents in burn bags in a hidden room in the FBI building. Endwokeness, well, it posts examples of Democrats redistricting throughout the years. Mazda to make a new sports car with apparently a rotary engine. And Cadillac recalls their Vistiq. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT, value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see the founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. Ease me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapters so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, as all awesome accessories should be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Mazda to make a new sports car with a rotary engine. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Jeff Perez. And they say, quote, Mazda is making a new rotary sports car. Here's everything we know. A new Mazda sports car will be built alongside the Miata, and it could have a rotary engine. Here's what we know. There's a neat little concept right there, which again, looks really cool. Should be called the RX-9. We'll see what they actually call it. Now, he says, quote, Mazda has a bad habit of teasing fans with beautiful concept cars that never actually intends to produce. Remember the Furia? What about the RX Vision? The list goes on. When the company debuted the iconic SB concept at the Japan Mobility Show in October 2023, we thought it would be much of the same. Yet another stunning concept car regulated to a museum somewhere, never destined for production. But apparently, this is not the case. Rumblings from Mazda headquarters in Fuji all but confirmed a new sports car built alongside Miata, similar icons such as the RX-7 and RX-8 before. This new one would also carry a rotary powertrain, while visually it would look similar to the iconic SP. We could see Mazda's new production sports cars as early as next year, otherwise details are still slim until it officially makes its debut. Here's what we do know about Mazda's upcoming coupe. And here you can see the rear of the vehicle, which also looks quite attractive. If you're slightly inebriated, almost looks like Ferrari California. Almost from a certain type of angle. Kinda. Or maybe it's just me. Now, they say that, quote, that being said, we wouldn't put past Mazda to miss an easy layup when it comes to naming the next sports car. We don't necessarily think the clunky iconic SP nameplate will make it to production, but there's always a chance Mazda decides to go in an entirely new direction at the same. One thing for we know, that it won't be called the Cosmo. Well, yeah, why would you name it after a fairy godmother? Or godfather? Or Kramer from The Simpsons? Well, Seinfeld, you know what I mean. Now, they say, quote, the iconic SP will heavily inspire the look of Mazda's next sports car. 164.5 inches and 72.5 inches wide. The original concept was 10.4 inches longer and 4.7 wider than the ND generation Miata. Even though chief designer Makakosha Nakahama said the company would theoretically shrink the concept down to the size of Miata, the iconic SP was meant to preview a larger sports car. Which, again, nothing smaller than the Mazda Miata, and you wouldn't want... You already had the Miata that size, you want something different. Said, with that in mind, many expect many of its concept cues, such as the sleek profile, rounded taillights, and angular grille, likely to carry over from the concept to production. The pop-up headlights, sadly, likely won't make it, which partially is due to regulation. You have to be able to basically hit a fat American with your car and then be okay. That's why you also don't have hood ornaments for the most part in the United States. It is for regulation and legality reasons. Now, they say that patent filings from 2024 even hint at a carbon fiber chassis, but that would likely make this sports car too expensive. Oh yeah, there's no spoiler. They give a ballpark price point. There's no conceivable way they can have a carbon fiber chassis at this price point. I mean, yeah, it would just wouldn't unless there's a new magical technology. It's not going to happen. They say, interestingly, Mazda also suggested the new CX-5 SUV could heavily inspire the automaker's future product designs. The stacked headlights and rear Mazda word mark specifically should find their way into future productions. Our rendering attempts to predict what Mazda's future sports car could look like keep those details in mind. They say, And this is where it starts to get disappointing. All signs point to a rotary engine under the hood of Mazda's new sports car. That being said, we don't know exactly what kind of rotary engine it may be, but again, we can look at the iconic SP concept for inspiration. Now again, this is where it gets disappointing. The iconic SP concept produced 365 horsepower from an electric motor with dual rotor combustion engines serving as the generator to recharge and charge the battery. So, useless. They say Mazda executives note that the concept had top-notch performance and driving would put a smile on your face. No one, because it'd be an EV. I mean, it'd be a glorified Chevrolet Volt with a Mazda badge. Which again, conceptually, you have the gas engine only for being a generator. Which, for Mazda, would be very, very disappointing to say the least. They say Mazda has repeatedly confirmed the dual motor powertrain for America, initially planned to bring business it states to bring it stateside on the MX-30 SUV, which still hadn't happened. In 2024, Mazda President and CEO Katosha Moro, probably, confirmed that Mazda had put together a dedicated team of engineers responsible for the rotary engine development. He says, quote, in order to break through the challenges of the carbon neutral... Yeah, exactly. This is where it gets a pain in the ass, because globalist government regulations. Or as Alex Jones would say, oh, these goddamn globalists want us to have nothing. They want us to have these gray, lame EV cars that they all control, we can't even use. They do all their trash, disposable, the government control them, terrible. I'm pretty sure Alex Jones would say something to that effect, because, yeah, one of the reasons that the RX-8, one of the coolest coupes out there, even had suicide doors, and the shifter was in the shape of a Wankel rotary engine. Yeah, one of the reasons it died was because of EPA and government regulations. Rotary engines, well, they tend to burn a little oil by default. Also, from a consumer adoption perspective, it doesn't help. Again, this is according to some Mazda forums. On average, they say you're supposed to top off the oil every other time you gas up the car. Which, let's be honest, most Americans aren't doing. Which is why I always give people a lot of caution when they're looking at the RX-7 or RX-8 used cars. Well, obviously used, they're decades old. You gotta be sure they're actually taken care of properly. The RX-7, a beautiful design, beautiful, great performing vehicle. They also put the fuel filter under the rear or under the axle. So in order to, every time you change your oil, you're supposed to change your oil filter. In order to do that, we had to remove an axle, which, let's be honest, barely anyone did because it's very labor intensive and expensive. So those cars really weren't maintained for the most part, which is why so many of them that are remaining, well, became trashed throughout the years. And again, because of government regulations, I don't think you'll ever see the Wankel engine again as much as I'd love to, because it's a really cool, unique engine, less moving parts, in theory more reliable. Yeah, conceptually, but not really when it comes to practice, because of the aforementioned reasons, I believe. But yeah, they're going to have a Wankel engine for basically no reason. It's going to recharge batteries. People want a Wankel engine that actually moves the tires. That's what enthusiasts want. Now, he says, quote, in order to break through the challenges of carbon neutral era, rotary engine engineers have acquired a broad technical perspective that transcends the boundaries of engine types and cutting edge internal combustion engine based technology, and who have been trained as users of model based development will reunite. It's not easy to say, but I hope we can take a step forward to a new chapter of insatiable challenge, unquote, which it is certainly a challenge. I agree with that assessment part of his quote. But again, it's just one of those things where, again, thank God, Trump is starting to repeal a lot of the government regulation in the United States for emissions. That's awesome. But a lot of these products seem to be, and again, U.S. was one of the largest, most important markets when it comes to the automobile industry. But I'm just very skeptical this thing will come back with a Wankel engine. And if it's just to recharge batteries, who cares? Because you'll have the same issues without the upside of the fun performance. Now, they say, will this replace the Miata? Absolutely not. Mazda has already said that the new sports cars won't replace the beloved Miata. As the iconic SP concept, the production version will be larger, more powerful than Miata, and sit above the convertible sports car in the lineup. Now they say, how much is this going to cost? Let's get another picture. There's the iconic Wankel engine over there. That funny looking, a lot of people call it triangle. Some enthusiasts call it the Dorito shape. The piston that goes around as opposed to traditionally going up and down, or, Now, yeah, it looks really cool. Now, they say, if you were to hazard a guess, Mazda's new sports car would likely start at around $50,000. That make it pricier than the Nissan Z at $44,110, but in lineup with the Toyota Supra when it was new. Which, again, they say, when will the debut? They're expecting it sometime late 2026, maybe for sale 2027. And again, it's kind of cool, but they're already doing it from the start with the powertrain, or lack thereof. I would venture to say, even if this had a straight 6, which I'm not the biggest fan. I kind of joke and I say that straight six belongs to the BMW because they perfected that, that engine design over decades of research, development, and innovation. Again, for this car, it has to have more power than Miata, obviously. Mazda Miata is the best track car on the planet. In terms of bang for your buck, weight distribution, got enough horsepower to have fun, to improve your skill sets, and all the consumables are very cheap and affordable, especially compared to any other sports car. Except the awesome Honda Civic Si, which I love her. But in all seriousness, again, this powertrain sucks. It reminds me of the Honda Prelude, which is going to die. It will not sell more than 18 units. Because Honda Prelude is going to be a hybrid. It's stupid. Again, hybrids, they sell. I understand why companies are making them. They sell. Not for these type of sports cars and enthusiast vehicles. A majority of enthusiasts are not going to. They're not going to buy this. It's against recharging the batteries to be making an EV. I just don't see how it's going to be viable. Enthusiasts aren't going to want it. The people who like EVs, I don't think they'll buy it either. And again, this all, a lot of things up in the air. Maybe they can switch things around. In the article, they also say, maybe an alternative is having the rotary drive the wheels with some type of hybrid assist model. Again, I just think without a good gas-powered engine, this sports car, which again, sports cars are very important. I think a lot of them serve as halo cars to get you engaged with the brand. And obviously, families buy SUVs, trucks, and all that kind of stuff, which are also more profitable and important, very important for the companies. Kind of gets them in the door. This is going to be a low volume unit production vehicle. And that's okay. There's a great place in the market for those things. I'm excited, but I'm also pessimistic. I think, and again, a lot of things are up in the air. I know I said that already. If they come out with an actual engine, give it a stick shift, make the enthusiasts happy, there's still demand out there for that. Cadillac CT4V Blackwing and CT5V Blackwing coming in at 50% take rate for stick shifts. Subaru WRX is like 86%. There's people who want stick shifts, and Mazda makes some really good stick. They have a great history of having a third pedal. So again, if I were in charge of this project, I'd do a straight six, maybe a V6, give it a stick shift, give it a factory turbo. They got a little bit more power. That, and again, keep it bigger than the Miata, hit that price point. I think that'd be pretty good. Because also, you're talking $50,000. Again, you're looking at the Supra, which does have an inline-4 option, but most people are getting the straight six. But yeah, I just think it'll be interesting to see how this is viable as a product. And again, we'll get to know more. But I think as it sits right now, I don't think it's going to be successful. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the cultural part of the podcast, you have Matt Walsh saying that women should not be allowed to go on patrol or lead police departments, and gets a lot of accolades, actually. Now, it's brought to us thanks to Matt Walsh on X, specifically #Matt Walsh blog, and he's actually responding to some messages sent from police officers. So I'm actually going to read these messages first. First one says, quote, 2 decades of patrol, FTO, undercover, search warrants, kicking doors, felony, takedowns, all in bag parts of Nashville. And you are 100% right. Thank you for saying what we aren't allowed to. A female keying up as a backup officer on the radio doesn't count, and every cop knows that. A female detective on a high-risk search arrest warrant gets perimeter duty, huge liability nearly every time. Definitely, or don't let the whiners tell you differently in your post regarding female cops. Now retired after 21 years as a lieutenant, not only were most female unable to protect themselves in violent situations, but they also distract from the main mission, such as arresting a domestic violence perpetrator, and other cops have to shield or come to the aid of the female cop, who caught an elbow or something. Also, 2 female partnerships on patrol can go down very quickly for violent 911 calls. I will give female New York City cops more credit, though, with tougher and even larger women. I can't but laugh, because in America, when we say large, we think obese, because most of them are, especially women. But yeah, some of them might be bodybuilders, kind of. Larger women, they had to survive in violent neighborhoods growing up. However, you don't see those circumstances across the rest of the country. In reference to your woman on patrol comment, you couldn't be more right. Nearly 20 years in law enforcement, they are a liability 100% on patrol. As investigators, they are fine, but handling dangerous criminals, hell no. In my entire time policing, I've worked with one woman who is competent, and she was built like a dude with over 6 feet tall. We can't even say these things publicly, or we lose our job. Which, yeah, you should never lose your job for saying the truth, but again, they do. Now, Matt Walsh responded, saying, quote, I said women shouldn't be on patrol or leading police departments, and a bunch of people are crying out about it in the comments. But privately, I'm getting messages like this from actual police officers. Yep, they got 1 million views, or right under 1 million views, and 28,000 likes for Matt Walsh. I would argue, speaking common sense. Because again, men and women are different. Well, trans people will tell you not, but those who live in reality have a modicum of sanity. They say, yeah, men and women are built differently, we're programmed differently, and we're good at different things. When it comes to physical altercations, yeah, men are 1,000 times more effective at that. One of the biggest issues also with women trying to overcompensate for the lack of physical superiority when it comes to, physical altercations on the patrol, women are known for escalating things exponentially more than male police officers. Because again, they're perhaps overcompensating it, maybe it's Napoleon effect, whatever. But yeah, look at the rates of who's pulling guns and who's pulling tasers and getting more violent and escalating situations. Women police officers. Go on Facebook, just look at the stories on the Facebook. Again, that's biased information because you're seeing the most entertaining stories in terms of, what's going viral. But yeah, look at who's escalating things the most. It's the ladies. Now, going into some of the comments section, Dr. Shari says, quote, absolutely 100% agree, and I am a woman. Not all, but many women come from a place of emotional/feelings. These are good things under the right circumstances. Law enforcement and military are two places they do not belong, getting 210 likes. You also have Injured Minds says, quote, women just shouldn't be in roles that rely so heavily on physical strength, emotional discipline, or camaraderie. Getting 120 likes. Yeah. Border Crackdown says, because common sense is illegal nowadays, getting 55 likes. Last True Roman, which reminds me, when did Roman fall and why? Well, there's a lot of parallels to the United States, but I partially digress. He says, quote, of course they don't. Everyone from law enforcement that I know agrees. Women have no place on frontline police crews. Sending 2 police women into Baltimore result in 2 police deaths. It's that simple. Getting 210 likes. Not me, but you goes even further, saying, quote, women shouldn't be in any positions of power. Getting 332 likes. He was not ratioed. Going down more and more. Nope, was not ratioed. The conservative alternative says, quote, for years, feminists have demanded that society pretends that women are capable as men in every way, but they're not. This is a basic fact, yet somehow it's considered controversial in modern times, getting 377 likes, which, oh yeah. Yeah, if you work in corporate America, you say that, oh yeah, you'd be sitting down with a woman because you'd be talking to HR, which, I mean, you talk about a useless job or, industry that's only women and not about creating, value in terms of sales or customer service, human resources. But yeah, they'd be having a chat with you around all that. Enough Places to Hide says, quote, wow, dude, you sound like a Nazi, racist, misogynist, xenophobe, homophobe, fascist, fatphobic, anti-Semite. Getting 22 likes and 27 comments. Was he ratioed? Abby says, name calling instead of logical argument, getting 6 likes. And he says, quote, actually a joke instead of name calling. I'm sorry, it went over your head, getting 3 likes. Give him a like too. Going to the main comment section again. John Del Oraz says, quote, yeah, this is just very obvious and it's crazy that you can't make that statement in 2025, getting 66 likes. Ed Berry says, quote, it seems like we've learned a lesson in reality with the transgender sports problem where men beat the hell out of women. We still do not have a single woman able to compete with men in any sport. Can we just do reality again? Getting 84 likes. Get 85. Good point. Matthew James says, quote, this is one of those extremely obvious things that should need no explanation. My wife gets it. My kids get it. If the house is on fire, what do you want running to carry you out? A 6'2", 250-pound dude or a 5'pound, 135-pound woman? It's literally an actual dude. What dudes are built for? Getting 165 likes. I mean, remember when San Francisco and California, when they hired the heads of head of all the fire departments, they're all fat lesbian women. They hilariously enough all look gender androgynous, so they're morbidly obese. I mean, and they all failed, obviously. They didn't have the mental intellect to realize you need water in the water reservoirs to put out the fires. Or maybe it was a conspiracy theory and they did it on purpose, who knows? But yeah. And then one of the gals, she literally says, I don't save men because, they got themselves in the problem. That was one of the head of the fire departments in California. Which boggles my mind that people still live in there. Captain Patriot says, quote, guys in the military would say the same thing 9 out of 10 times, including pilots, before we get down that road, getting 65 likes. Dandy Jim says, quote, obvious to anyone who is being honest, yet there are exceptions to every rule. There are extremely capable women cops, but generally women are not physically or tactically capable as men. Under extreme pressure, that is liability. The push for gender parity here is insane, getting 66 likes. EE says, I'll say it here, women shouldn't be cops or the military, getting 43 likes. Which again, the US, they're not in combat roles, but again, they're all over the place as well. Hank says, quote, I would like to see a nationwide study on disabled claims by police officers. I have a feeling women are disproportionately high amount of long-term disability claims, getting 42 likes. Yeah, probably. Almost liked comments here. Jeez Louise. It is a textbook long, but is it interesting is a real question. Let's see here. Contrarian one. Was he ratioed? Let's see. Let's see here. It's a textbook. I'll just move on then. Well, let's see if there's any contrarian statements here. Travis says, your problem is you say all women. There are women who would kill in those fields. Is that a pun because they escalate more than men? They actually kill more than men? Is that supposed to be a dark humor, Travis? It's kind of funny, but I like dark humor, and I'm probably messed up like that. He says, maybe a single standard for both genders, getting 4 likes. Well, that's also another issue. Police departments across the U.S. lowered the standards so that women could become police officers. I mean, one of the most hilarious ones, when you had one the size of Rosie O'Donnell, who couldn't actually get over the obstacle after like 6 attempts, and she still made police officer. Yeah. So, we'll see. Well, I can't think the average person would probably agree with Matt Walsh with this, but let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have a woman saying that the American Eagle Sydney Sweeney advertisement brought back trauma, because, of course, she's that mentally weak. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Colin Rugg. He says, quote, new, a woman says that the American Eagle Sydney Sweeney ad brought back her childhood trauma as a brown girl, which, I mean, I thought she's Mexican. Is she African-American? I don't know. But maybe she'll give some articulate... Oh, of course, they're not going to give articulate, intelligent reasons. But let's see what she has to say.
I really wasn't going to weigh in on this, but here we go. It is so difficult to grow up as a person of color, specifically a woman, and view yourself as beautiful in any sense of the word.
Oh, so you're in every advertisement since the dawn of time. It's like the one white ad we've seen in 10 years. Like, I mean, the Nike, was it? The American Eagle ad, what was it, 2 years ago, had the morbidly obese black woman. They all say they're lying and saying she was beautiful. Spoiler, obesity is not.
Growing up in this country. I remember growing up in a predominantly white community, wishing myself out of this body, out of this culture, take my name, if it meant that I could wake up blonde-haired and blue-eyed, never having to explain who I am or worry about being accepted. That is why this American Eagle ad with Sydney Sweeney is especially off-putting. There's a lot of rhetoric right now online about the political ideologies that this represents, and I don't discount that, but for me, I can't help but think about the 13-year-old brown girl who gets all her denim at American Eagle, who already struggles to see her beauty and worth in a world that continues to value white, Eurocentric beauty standards, which I naively thought by this point we would have moved the needle on. And this girl is now wishing she too could wake up with blonde hair and blue eyes. It took me so long, too long in my life to look in the mirror and see beauty. And I hate that that continues to be a shared experience for young brown girls in this country.
I mean, she's ugly, but on the inside. Also, why do these leftists always have soulless, creepy eyes? I mean, granted, I don't have much ground to stand on when it comes to visual apparel. I know that. But why do they always look creepy like that? As if there's no intellect behind the eyes at all. And this is hilarious because, again, up until this one ad, for a decade plus, all pretty much apparel ads for the fashion industry have been minorities, which are, in many cases, the majority. Again, think about it. I mean, I joke when I have people over for the interview podcast. I tell them I have a rare advertisement because I have an old family video advertisement where there's a white family on it. Then I have a boxed Nintendo Entertainment System, and on that box, I say, hey, you know, one of the last ads, now that granted that was the 80s. I mean, even Joe Biden made jokes about it when he was running in office. I was about to say as president, well, as vegetable more accurately, but he said it was a good thing that there's no whites in commercials anymore. I mean, for pretty much every commercial, they've been replaced. And she's saying, oh no, I had to explain who I was. I mean, again, I looks a little Mexican. I don't think anyone really cares. It's such this weak victimhood mentality of people. It's just pathetic. Americans have gotten so weak. Oh no, this one girl, now she'll aspire to be blonde? Again, go to any makeup store and that girl will see like 78 ads for African Americans. They're all over. I mean, marketing companies leaned all into that. And so it's like this one that isn't, and she's having a meltdown. Really? Go to any Target. She'll see a bunch of ads. I'm trying to think of apparel companies. I don't shop for clothes. Obviously, I buy one suit every 10 years. Actually, more than 10 years, but nevertheless, you get what I'm saying. And this went moderately viral. Got 2.9 million views and 29,000 likes. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Gunther Eagleman, who says, quote, "Why do they always play the victim role?" Getting 6.5 thousand likes. Alan Rugg says, "For many, their entire identity is being a victim. Take that victimhood mentality away and they have no identity." Yep, getting 4,000 likes. Hank says, "If your self-worth crumbles at the sight of Sydney Sweeney in jeans, I've got news for you. The problem isn't whiteness, it's you." Getting 12,000 likes. Yep. Alan Rugg also says, "This was probably just a grift by her to get everyone to tell her she is pretty." And Rose says, "By the way, you're stunning." She said, "Thank you," which she's not pretty. We all have our different preferences. Again, she is mid at best. She's not pretty. And again, combine that with what she's saying, this is really disgusting. You have Samuel Winchester saying, quote, "Translation, I hate myself and I'm jealous," getting 3.9 thousand likes. Yep. John Hawkins says, quote, "Every last one of these videos, all of them down to these nutty leftist women, all this could be summed as, it's not fair. She's getting all the attention for being prettier than me." Yep. And Colin Rugg, that got 3,000 likes. Colin Rugg responded saying, quote, "Yeah, it says a lot about the self-confidence of these women making these videos," getting 950 likes. BK Actual says, quote, "We've yet to see a brown girl in one single advertisement, Colin. Have some sympathy for her struggles." And Colin says, "It's just so unfair. I've literally never seen a brown girl in every ad ever." In any ad ever. Getting 1.4 thousand likes. Because, of course, look at any ad. What was it? There's a stupid one for QuickBooks yesterday and Fidelity the day before. Like, not only were they African American, but I thought they were actually insultingly stereotypical because one had a fro and one had glasses thicker than this desk. Like, I don't know why they seem to people choose the most unattractive glasses for social media. Again, it's not like it's not like I'm a fan of glasses or hate them. There's thousands of glasses designs. Granted, like 2 or 3 manufacturers, but there's so many options, and yet they choose the most ridiculous comical ones. Gunther Eagleman also says, "Does every race except Caucasian deserve advertising representation? This girl's argument is nonsense, and her mouth looks weird as fuck. These people are pathetic." 2.2 thousand likes. The redheaded libertarian says, "I'm browner than that girl." Getting 296 likes. 334 likes, going up like a stock. Because, yeah. Dr. MPBHD says, "I grew up short. I'm very traumatized every time I see a tall person." Getting 991 likes. Sports, Politics, and Satire. Very good, very specific account. He has a meme or meme of Sydney Sweeney. He says, "Never forget, never apologize. It's okay to be white." Getting 448 likes, which of course she would never say because she'd be ostracized completely from any opportunities in the future. But yeah, it is fascinating in the United States how culturally it's the thing where you can be proud of your race except you're white. I mean, you see this in corporate America, and I too in cybersecurity. It's like, yeah, the cybersecurity special clubs for African American, women, Hispanics, even probably Puerto Rican, maybe even Canadian. Maybe not Canadian, but yeah, everything except white. And you'll be ostracized immediately if you dare to have. I actually did look on LinkedIn. I searched for like blacks in technology. There's 35 groups plus. And obviously, there's nothing for whites. Going down more and more. John says, "If a blonde girl in jeans ruins your whole identity, you were never proud of who you were to begin with." Getting 2.1 thousand likes. You also have Fit American Cisco. "I'm sick and tired of these perpetual victim class. If you don't feel good about yourself, that's on you. It's just an ad for jeans. Get over it." Getting 528 likes. Dad the Veteran says, quote, "Hope this helps with your trauma." And it's the ad. Well, it's Donald Trump sitting down in blue jeans and denim. And it says American Eagle, which, that's hilarious. They got 728 likes. I can't help but think Donald Trump would say something to the effect of, "Of all the jean advertisements, I'm the best. My jeans are awesome. I've got the denim. I've got the swag. I've got the Riz. And thanks to the Urban Dictionary, I now know what that means. So big, so grand, so awesome." Which, again, pretty sure Trump Trump didn't necessarily say that in those words, but he might. You also have Daniel Garcia just doing a screenshot of her looking, well, yeah, terrible, getting 127 likes. Again, Junita Broderick says, "We were raised to be victims, coddled and spoiled. That's all we all are. That's all we are now. Oh, it went from 480 to 523 likes. Thrill the Gorilla says, quote, white girls of today aren't allowed to be representative and proud because sensitive people of color get their feelings hurt when they were younger. The mental gymnastics, getting 499. I think 500 likes. 537 likes? Jeez Louise. This article's on fire. Oh, here's a perfect one. Land Nesta has a picture of I was about to say liberal girl. You know she's liberal because she has blue hair, glasses, and a cow ring. Which I don't know why women think that's attractive. Spoiler alert, 2 guys in America think it's attractive. I'm not one of them either. And it says, quote, young liberal women are statistically the unhappiest and most mentally ill demographic in America. And then she says, quote, I have multiple mental disorders and hate everything about life, but trust me, my beliefs are correct and everyone else is wrong. Yep. Again, that's got 32. Let's get 33 likes. They also have the highest rate of, usage of prescription drugs and antidepressants, which again, I'm not a doctor, but yeah. So yeah, the meltdowns keep getting more and more hilarious, and I don't think they're going to end anytime soon. But leave your thoughts and comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part podcast, you have the PELOSI Act passing committee 8-7, as someone actually tries to stop insider trading. Also thanks to Nick Sorter, who posted this video of Senator Hockley, and he says, quote, breaking the PELOSI Act, which bans congressional stock trading, has just passed committee 8-7. The name of the bill is perfect, which again, the name of the bill is Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments Act, also known as the PELOSI Act, because she's the most infamous stock trader in history in terms of insider trading. About 2 minutes long, but again, the fact that there's some momentum around this, maybe this will actually pass, long term and actually get implemented.
Say that we have an opportunity here today to do something that the public has wanted us to do for decades, and that is to ban members of Congress from profiting on information that, frankly, only members of Congress have in the buying and selling of stock. 86% of Americans say that members of Congress should not be able to buy and sell shares of stock, individual stock, while they are members of this body, and they are absolutely correct. And the reason is, you can see it, there was just another ethics referral in the House last week. We've seen the former Speaker of the House make millions of dollars in profits. We've seen members of both parties, I'm sad to say, be investigated for their stock trades. And the reason for all of this is that, quite frankly, members of this body are privy to information that the normal person just is not. Now, is that insider trading? It is not under the laws. Sometimes people say, well, we already have insider trading laws. We don't need a stock ban. Well, the information that members of Congress are privy to is technically not covered by the insider trading laws, but nobody really believes that the information that we get isn't valuable. It is quite valuable, which is why back during COVID, you saw members of Congress of both parties engage in a flurry of stock trading right after they were getting COVID briefings. Were members of the public getting those briefings? They were not. Were members of the public privy to the kind of information that was being given to members of Congress? No, they were not. And so when you look at what members of Congress are privy to, what they are able to trade on, the access that they have, it's just qualitatively different than your average Joe or Jane, which is why we ought to put into place common sense guardrails that say, if you want to be a member of Congress, you can put you want to save, great. You can buy mutual funds, you can buy broadly diversified investment vehicles. You should not be able to buy and trade individual stock shares in which, frankly, we have an interest in the work that we do. We have information that no other people get, no other members of the public have. This bill would finally redress that.
That's one of the reasons no one trusts politicians. It's one of the biggest contributing factors of why politicians get into politics, and they make, I would argue, an absurd amount of money for what they do, like $195,000 a year, and then they leave millionaires, multi-millionaires. It's because they have insider trading. And the legal way they do it is they have their husbands do it for them, or they have their wives do it for them. That's how Nancy Pelosi gets away with this. Her husband is the one making the trades, not her. And I would be willing to bet my bottom dollar she is giving him all the information so they can statistically beat the market better than anyone else in the world. Again, she's smart enough to talk. She's got some brain cells, but yeah, she's not a genius who can make money on the stock market. She's cheating, obviously. I mean, you saw this when the pandemic first broke out. All the politicians bought all the technology that enables work from home. One of the most common ones that people can relate to is Zoom. A lot of people are on Zoom calls. They bought a lot of Zoom stock. NVIDIA and other graphical design cards that enable more of those like VDI deployments or virtual desktop deployments. Yeah, they bought them all. And they made millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. And yet, nothing ever seems to change. Now, AOC, who has the mental intellect of a coconut, even she knows this is a problem. And I do agree. She actually worked with Matt Gaetz to get something introduced to ban insider trading. It's an instance where, again, I don't agree with pretty much 99% of what she says. Again, she thought it was a good idea, and she teamed up with Matt Gaetz to introduce a proposal to stop the ban of insider trading. Guess where it went? Yep, you're right. Basically nowhere. Again, this passed the committee 8-7, so barely passed. Yes, committee. So, again, I think it's a good thing. I think all politicians should be banned from individual trading of specifically individual stocks. Again, not financial advice. I had to say that because it's on the internet, and lawyers in the United States love to sue. But again, if they want to participate in the stock market, they can buy a mutual fund. They can buy an index. Historically speaking, that has been one of the safest bets in the stock market, is like the S&P 500, which, as the name would entail, that is a combination of the S&P 500, the 500 businesses that they feel best exemplify the U.S. economy. Again, it's a diversified bet because you're not buying one single stock, like, for example, them buying one share of Zoom, but they're buying a fraction share of 500 companies. And building wealth, that is one of the most common mechanisms people choose to distribute the risk. So that way, if one company in the S&P 500 goes down, the others, are doing about well. So overall, historically speaking, usually goes up about 10% per year on average. And again, I think if you're a politician, yeah, you should be able to buy that. I think I'd be much more comfortable with, because again, on average, historically speaking, it's been proven over 100 years to be a very effective mechanism for increasing, your investments and your wealth. But buying individual shares where their laws are, not only do they get information that is privy to a lot of the things these companies do, or regulations around them as well, but they're making laws that affect these companies. One of the most comical ones is when they're thinking about, what's the defense budget looking like? Spoiler, there's like 2 companies that make aerospace like vehicles. There's basically one that makes an overwhelming majority of the munitions. This is a duopoly, and there's a smaller one too. General Dynamics is a huge. They make tanks as well as munitions, but Raytheon or RTX, they make more missiles than any other company on the planet. So if you're thinking, hey Bob, should we pass a bill to buy $500 million in ballistic missiles Q1? Now again, these are bid contracts, so the companies have to bid on them. But how many companies can fulfill that contract? Realistically, 1, maybe 2. Which company has most of the infrastructure already put up? They have a cost advantage. The other company can, put a bid out, but they would have to include the cost of material to actually, increase the capacity of their capability to manufacture it and all the machinery required for that. And they're passing laws. And again, that's I think one of the most common instances of the government regulating, defense companies and spending a lot of money on them. Also, automotive, that's huge. As I was going to say, that's also a huge industry, which they have, I would argue, way too much regulation power. That's another huge one they regulate as well. Also, when it comes to technology, NVIDIA, they know, one of the biggest ones was they were talking about banning certain chip sales to China. There's one company that makes, they design and also work with a foundry to make them, but NVIDIA, bar none, is the best known company. They're the first company in history to pass $4 trillion valuation. They are, as Trump would say, they're huge. They're the biggest company when it comes to the chips. So many chips, not the latest chips, but the computer chips. They're delicious for the AI models. They're making laws that are regulating AI. They're also talking about what should we be allowed to export to China. And being the number 1 chip manufacturer, if they have inside knowledge about what may or may not get greenlit for sale, they can have a huge advantage. Again, as soon as the government said, okay, we'll allow certain chip sales of NVIDIA to go to China, NVIDIA stock went up yet again by 6% in a single day, which again, that's pretty darn big. So again, I hope this gets further, but I'm just so pessimistic because historically it's never gone anywhere when it comes to banning the practice of insider trading. Again, people like us go to jail. Most famously, Martha Stewart went to jail for that. There's a little bit of misconception. She also went to jail because she was a CEO giving false statements. That's a variable people don't talk about in terms of her sentencing, but that was a major contributing factor as well. But again, she went to jail for insider trading. Politicians never do. They make millions of dollars on the left and the right. Now, historically speaking, PELOSI is the most famous one. She's made hundreds of millions of dollars. It's so famous that there are people who buy stocks just based on when she reports it. Another issue is when they report it, it's actually delayed. So it's not like she's going to buy stock today. We could all benefit from her insider trade. No. Politicians delay it. And also, Politicians will get fined, allegedly, if they don't report their trades. Spoiler, they never actually get fined. What was it? Was it Pelosi? One of them had like a $35,000 fine for that, for reporting their stock trades late. Yeah, spoiler, if you're making hundreds of millions of dollars, 35 grand is not a lot of money relative to the millions of dollars they're making. And they also really ever pay them. Because they really had a combo. Now, this went pretty viral, got 1.9 million views and 57,000 likes. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Kash Patel, who says, quote, "The bill could not be named anything better, getting 368 likes." Yep. Yeah, Nick Sorter said, yep, it's the Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments Act. You know Nancy hates this, getting 745 likes. Sean says, quote, "Now investigate every single one of them for insider trading," getting 1.4 thousand likes. Nick Sorter says, "Start with Pelosi, the undisputed world's best stock trader," getting 1.1 thousand likes, which, yeah, a big red flag is Nancy Pelosi trading better than Warren Buffett, who many people would argue is the most famous and successful trader in history. And yeah, Nancy Pelosi somehow knows more than the Oracle of Omaha, as he is delightfully known as among the trading community. Barbie True Blue says, "Who voted no and why?" Getting 382 likes. Nick Sorter said, "One of their excuses is we don't want running for Congress to be unappealing." WTF? The fact you can't trade on individual stocks turns you off from running for Congress. You have no business in Congress anyway. Getting 1.4 thousand likes. Which, again, you could buy an index fund. And when it comes to 401ks, most people have that default. But again, they don't want to just make money. They want to make a stupid amount of money. And again, not financial advice. I have to say it for the umpteenth time. But if you have insider trading knowledge, you're going to buy those individual stocks where you know you're going to make the greatest amount of money. Also, Sarah Smith says, quote, "We can ban congressional stock trading." We must ban it. She's got 280 likes. He says, quote, "If individuals in the private sector trade on insider tips, they go to prison. If members of Congress do it, they get a pass. It makes 0 sense." Yep. Game 432 likes. A lot of people are bringing it up. A lot of people are having AI generated pictures of Nancy Pelosi looking scared. Even if it passes the law, none of these laws are like retroactive. Like they're not going to go back she's not going to be in trouble for the previous trades. It would stop her from making future trades. But I mean, in terms of like her being held accountable or like being charged, I'm not saying the odds are 0, but the odds are like 0.00075%, give or take. Now, let's see here. Some people are bringing up, other things that they might use as workarounds. But again, I think, maybe I think it's a good thing, but let me know in the comments because, again, they do it on the left and the right. So I'm pretty pessimistic in terms of this will ever actually get off the ground long term and actually get passed. But let me know your thoughts because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Kash Patel finding Russiagate documents hidden in a burn bag in a secret room. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Benny Johnson. He says, quote, "FBI Director Kash Patel reportedly found Russiagate documents hidden in, quote-unquote, burn bags inside a secret FBI room, per Fox News." This should have got more viral. Got about 453,000 views and 3.7 thousand likes. Which, again, I'm not too surprised they're finding remnants of documents in burn bags. Because, again, how many years was Biden in office? It felt like an eternity. But I'm sure one of his cronies told them to delete and destroy as much data as possible. Especially once they knew Trump won, I can't help but think, again, I'm in tech sales, so we do a lot of tech services and, software sales. I can't help but think for that 1 week, I should have been selling. I would love to have been the guy selling paper shredders because I can't help but think the government probably bought more paper shredders in the week after the election or the month after the election than all of government history combined in terms of procurement of paper shredders. I can't help but think it is probably all the shredders, semi-trucks, just they all had to be going there. Because again, they want to destroy as much evidence as possible because Biden Harris administration was the most corrupt, mentally inept administrations in history. Especially now that we have the Russiagate being proven. Now, you also have Benny Johnson saying source. Is a picture of Kash Patel looking base, getting 541 likes. Here, go to the Fox News page. They say Patel found thousands of sensitive Trump probe documents inside burn bags in a secret room. Let's see here. Now, sources told Fox News Digital one of the documents FBI officials found in the burn bag was the classified annex of former special counsel John Durham's final report, which included underlying intelligence he reviewed. declassification of the classified annex is being done in close coordination with the CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Patel Director National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, General Pam Bondi, Acting National Security Director Willie Hertman. They say sources exclusively briefed Fox Judicial on the contents of the classified annex, including the U.S. intelligence community had credible foreign sources indicating the FBI would play a role in the spreading of the alleged Trump-Russia collusion narrative before the Bureau ever launched this controversial crossfire probe. Now, going back to the comment section, one of the first ones, well, I was going to say, not by number of likes, but I'm a little biased. I think this is from the most handsome and awesome and intelligent of tweeters of all time, me, the Topping Show, and I say, quote, no administration in history has ever been more corrupt than the Biden-Harris-Obama administration, getting 5 likes. The quartering, Jeremy says, quote, how many arrests? Oh, none? Just headlines? Cool. Getting 129, let's make it 130 likes, which, 145, going like an NVIDIA stock, though, not financial advice. Just wish I bought a crap load of it, but nevertheless, yeah, maybe we'll get a strongly worded letter. Republicans are really good at that. I mean, when it comes to writing angry letters, be careful, Democrats, Republicans. Ooh, they write them hard. Or Trump would probably say something to the effect of, we write the most harshly worded letters, all the vowels, all the extras. I even used the Yearbon dictionary and maybe a thesaurus. We write the most angriest letters, make the Democrats cry, own the left with the letters, which, yeah, that's almost aggravating things. I can barely speak, which is saying something because I'm, usually struggle speaking to begin with. But I have a quick joke. Well, I'm actually kind of serious. When I first started the show, barely anyone tuned in, maybe a family member, and I had no subscribers. But as I slowly but surely gained more subscribers, I've been better at speaking. I used to speak faster than Ben Shapiro and more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to come upstairs. But as I gain more subscribers, I've been slightly better at speaking, leading my theory. The more people that click that button, the better I speak, and will someday make it through an entire episode speaking perfectly and articulately. Someday. Which reminds me to ask you to press that subscribe button. Don't forget to tell your friends and tell your enemies. Your enemies might be so enamored and impressed by your taste in content, they might become your friends if you recommend the show. Or they might find it so viscerally disgusting and stupid, they then become even more greater enemies and it becomes a physical altercation. So maybe I shouldn't recommend that. Either way, it might make for an interesting, funny story. So tell your friends and tell your enemies, and don't forget to subscribe. Now, going back to the main comments, John says, quote, they hid the evidence because they knew Russiagate was a deep state hoax to destroy Trump, getting 21 likes. Going down more and more. The Vault has a picture of Trump, and he's pointing to a sign and says, quote, I did not tell patriots to enter the Capitol. Ray Epps, the FBI and Capitol Police did that, getting 71 likes. Yeah. Was Ray Epps ever actually arrested or held accountable? Well, he wasn't. Of course not. Heather 007. She British. 007, she has to be. She's driving an Aston Martin? Apparently not. She's a veteran, foster youth advocate. Oh, I'll definitely give her a follow. Now this is again Heather 007 saying, quote, can it be admitted already that any Epstein files worth an arrest was probably burned by the same Democrats who tried to hide the Russiagate? Yeah, probably 81 likes. Yeah, I'd probably say yeah. Ooh, Norm Macdonald? I'm going to definitely butcher Norm Macdonald's accent, but I'll give it a go. Come on here. That's a Trez. This makes you wonder. He says, hey, don't call me a cynic, but I'm starting to think of these blood-drinking, Moloch worshipping pedophiles who run a government might not have the best interest in mind. And you know what really gets me? The worst thing about this is the hypocrisy. Some people say that Epstein is taking advantage of the kids or saying Trump up and destroying this country. No. That wasn't the worst part. The worst part? Hypocrisy. That might be the worst Norm Macdonald impression you heard all year, but dang it, I went for it. The attempt was made. And if you think that deserves a like or dislike, let me know in the comments. Jeffrey Rose Wright says, quote, another nothing burger direction. And you have Trump talking to Obama, and you have the blurb saying, quote, then I said Epstein was a hoax and we were arresting Obama, getting 49 likes. Smith T says, get out here, you... What? Get out of here with your kosher theater? Patel? Again, I'm not a religious aficionado, but I'm pretty sure... Wait, I don't think Kash Patel is Jewish? Odd statement for sure. Behind the headline says, Kash Patel just cracked the deep state's closet and is full of skeletons. Let him call them out, getting 16 likes. So again, more breaking news, but again, will anyone actually be held accountable or will charges be filed? That's what I'm really interested in. Let's just say I'm pretty skeptical, but let me know your thoughts because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Democrats having examples of rigging maps for the redistricting going viral after Republicans have the proposal for redistricting Texas. This brought us thanks to Endwokeness. He says, quote, Democrats rigged the maps to maximize their share of congressional seats. It's absolutely justified for us to do so. You start with California. It says, 40% of the votes are Republican, but only 17% of the seats out of 9 of the 52. Yeah, Massachusetts, 35% statewide vote are Republican, yet they have 0 seat representation, 0 out of 9. Connecticut, you have 38% of the statewide vote with 0% of the seats, 0 out of 5. New York, most overrated state in the union, saying Republicans are 42% of the statewide vote, but only represent 26.9% of the seats, 7 out of 26. New Jersey, the a-hole of all the states of the country, actually. Oh, the only state where you have, I believe it's one of the only state, I know for sure they still have the ground, they have the right to retreat. So you don't have the right to defend yourself in New Jersey. You have to, someone breaks into your house, you have to leave. I'm not kidding. It's that perverse and weak of a state. They force you to be a victim. Now, nevertheless, New Jersey has 43% of the state's votes being Republican, but 25% of the seats, 3 out of 12, being Republican. Maryland has 38% of the nationwide vote, but only 1 out of the 8 seats. New Mexico has 44% statewide vote, 0% of the seats, 0 out of 3. Hawaii, the most useless state in the union, jeez Louise. Again, with ADHD. We're $37 trillion in debt thanks to the ineptitudes and or corruption of Democrats and Republicans. And yet, we're going to have to do something to pay off that debt. We have to get creative and sell something useless we don't use, like Hawaii. The next iPhone 28 ain't coming out of Hawaii. Next Samsung TV ain't going to be made there either. I'm trying to think what consumers buy. Cars? No. They're known for tourism. So eating crappy food and playing those stupid flower necklaces. What else are you known for? They have a military base. We can always lease that back. I say we sell Hawaii. What do they do for us anyway? I'm only partially kidding. You also have Oregon, 42% of the statewide vote being Republican, only 16% of the seats. Washington, 38% of the statewide vote, with 20% of the seats. And Rhode Island, which somehow is still a state, 38% of the statewide vote and 0% of the seats. And this went moderately viral, got 529,000 views and 10,000 likes, which, again, Republicans, they should actually wake up and play by the same rules. So I'm actually all about them redistricting Texas. Fine. Again, they've been doing nothing for, well, I'd argue most of my life. They've been doing some redistricting. I'm not a fan of the concept, but again, if Republicans do it, or Democrats do it, yeah, do it, Republicans. Now, one of the first comments also comes to us thanks to Libercat Media TM. Now, he says, quote, they've also stuffed illegals into states that they needed them the most in order to get the census count. They gained congressional seats and electoral power. What their base doesn't understand is it's not all love is love, abortion, women's rights, democracy. It's all about power. Getting 512 likes. Yep. I mean, a lot of people ask throughout the years, like, why do you care about illegal immigration? I mean, they don't vote in elections. Well, first of all, some of them do. But the big issue is they count towards the state census. And they cheat. That's why California has more representation than they should. I would argue they have more I would argue they have more than they deserve it as a concept. But in terms of actual head count, they have millions of illegals there. That boosts their numbers on the U.S. Census, which stupidly somehow counts illegals. That means they have more people to send to House Representatives. So, again, there's a reason why Democrats love cheating and love illegals in their states. It's not just to drain the taxpayer dollars to pay for people who don't work and people that are breaking the law and getting paid on their table. But it's also so they get more representation and they get more power in government. That's why they shouldn't count on the census. It's ridiculous that they ever did. Now, you also have Paul Zazupa saying, quote, Democrats always cheat at elections because they can't win on policy, getting 339 likes. I mean, I would argue that's true, but it's also liberal white women will vote for them no matter what because they worship abortion and cats. I mean, it is astonishing, scary how many people you ask on the street when it comes to like political interviews. You ask them, what are the 3 policies that will inspire you to vote for a candidate? Most of them can't say one, which I would argue they don't deserve to vote. And there are some Republicans who do that as well. Don't get me started. However, Republicans don't have a whole mantra saying vote blue no matter who. Which, I mean, some of them are so mentally vacuous they voted for Kamala Harris because the intellect of a coconut. Now, that's too harsh. That's an insult to the great coconut community who actually provides useful things like coconut milk, which I don't drink, but, some people do, so that's some value to society. Kamala Harris was just a word salad dressed up, just a Marxist dressed up. And she wanted to tax unrealized gains. Like, the worst ideas in history, some of the worst ideas ever. And people still voted for her because, no matter who, vote for blue. It's just ridiculous. Scrolling down more and more. Chevy Countryman says, quote, next up, flipping California red, getting 53 likes, which, again, if they didn't count illegals, yeah. Scroll down more and more. The Volt says, never forget the world's most elite $1 million limousines on $1 billion plane jets to fly around the world to help you to reduce your carbon footprint. Yeah, that's funny. And 39 likes. Oh, also the World Economic Forum and all those big guys all fly out talking about saving the environment in their private jets, including that moron Greta Thunberg. You guys have rare money notes. It says, quote, these numbers are getting pretty damn evidence of how badly gerrymandering those blue states are getting. Getting 40% of the vote in California and only 17% of the seats is insane. In states like Massachusetts, well, Texas more likely, political pun, and Connecticut, where Republicans get over a third of the votes, but zero representation, that's not democracy, that's rigging. Again, some of these are not just my speaking ineptitudes because their grammar's abhorrent, but I'll read it as intended. He says, the if you can't beat them, join them approach makes sense from a political strategy standpoint. Democrats have been playing hardball with redistricting for years, while Republicans tried to play fair. But it sucks that the solution is just more gerrymandering instead of actually fixing the system to be fair for everyone. Got 182 likes. I mean, Republicans should also, Democrats introduced lawfare like no other when they went to Donald Trump with trumped up charges, pun intended, obviously. If Republicans wanted the age-old, mutually assured destruction, they would be doing the same thing. They're not, because most Republicans are weak, ineffective, and rhinos, pejoratively known as Republicans in name only. But yeah, the reason Democrats keep doing insane things is because there's no negative ramification for them to stop. Because the Republicans do nothing. Well, they sit around and collect a paycheck, and some of them do insider trading, so I guess that's not nothing bad, but they do things. Does not to help you and I. Now, going back to the main comment section, you also have, the common voice says, when one side cheats, fairness is lost. People votes mean nothing if it maps are drawn to block them. If Democrat rig maps, others must fight back to protect their voice, getting 23 likes. Papa Vane has a picture of Illinois, where, most of it is red, except for the shitties, and they also shows it by district, and it got 18 likes. Which, again, I would argue most of the shitties where everyone's a government employee and dependent on the system with handouts from the government, maybe they shouldn't get to vote. Because, again, they just keep voting for a bigger, more bloated government that will spend more money on them. Going down more and more. The Vault has a picture of Satan, Fauci, Soros, Schwab, and Bush, or not Bush, I'm sorry, well, him too, but Bill Gates. It says, corporate needs to define the differences between this picture and this picture. And Pam from the office goes, they're the same picture, getting 14 likes. So, again, I don't think gerrymandering, it's going to change anytime soon. But, again, if you have one side that always cheats and one that plays by the rules, and again, legally speaking, it's been done for decades. It's not illegal for them to do this. It's frowned upon by the mass public. I think most people do not like it. Again, if these are the rules of the game, I would argue, Republicans should be doing the same. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Cadillac recalling their Vistiq for all 5 owners. They'll be so sorely disappointed. Now, this is brought to us thanks to AutoEvolution.com, and specifically Mirka Pandit, who's a writer over there, who says, quote, General Motors recalls Cadillac Vistiq and Lyriq electric SUVs for improperly secured batteries. How's that possible? I mean, they have hardworking unionized labor there. The most hardest working Americans, the United Auto Workers. They're the greatest employees on the planet. Not at all corrupt, inept. They're great. I'm kidding, obviously. The most unreliable cars in the United States year after year are always assembled by, you guessed it, unionized labor, who cost trillions of dollars. And one of the reasons why they're so unreliable, one of the most hilarious ones was when Ford had mismatched headlights and seats in some of their trucks because the union goes, who cares? Getting paid hundreds of dollars an hour in benefits and cash, or, in salary, to do this labor. Yeah, going to the actual content, they say, quote, produced at Spring Hill Manufacturing, Tennessee, BV3 program, the family-sized Cadillac Vistiq and the more compact Lyriq have been hit with a safety recall, according to General Motors. The bolts attaching the high-voltage battery to the floor might be loose or missing. Right. Bolts are missing, and employees didn't notice that. Now, GM claims that a third-party vendor failed to properly install the subjective bolts during the repair operation. Oh, GM needs a repair? That's news. Obviously, it's not, because they get so many recalls, but kind of funny. A little tongue-in-cheek today. Now, they say, quote, the Detroit-based automaker started looking at the matter in June 2025 following a report from a Cadillac dealership. The dealership identified loose bolts on a brand new Vistiq, prompting the largest automaker of the Detroit Big Three to investigate. 56 other vehicles had similar implant repairs performed by the same third-party vendor, which isn't named in the recall documentation published by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Investigations of the additional Vistiq and Lyriq vehicles that underwent similar implant repairs found evidence of loose or missing bolts. Given the aforementioned, the safety boffins decided on recalling all potentially affected zero-emission crossovers GM is not aware of any complaints potentially related to the described recall condition. And yeah, I'm sorry, your eyes are going to hurt because you're going to see more pictures of GM products, which, let's be honest, for the most part, viscerally disgusting. Now they say, quote, there will be no charge for this service. Affected owners and lessees will be notified by mail no later than September 8th, 2025. Or just watch the show where we cover these topics weeks or months before the actual letters get mailed out. They also said affected vehicle identification numbers will be searchable on July 24th, 2025. Well, AKA already. Both Vistiq and Lyric feature 17 character VINs that start with a 1. The recalled population is split between 26 examples of the Vistiq and 27 of the XT5 size Lyric. Now, they noted that production dates of the affected Vistiq 3-row electric SUV range from March 10, 2025 to March 17, 2025 for the 2036 model year. Now, they also note that as for Lyric, make of the 2025 model assembled at the Spring Hill manufacturing from March 7, 2025 and March 17th, 2025. And for some reason, people are willing to pay $58,000 for these and $78,000 for these, respectively, which I can't imagine spending that much for I was about to say disposable vehicle. It's a GM product, so it already is. But an EV GM disposable, I mean, it's ultra disposable, which again, if anything goes wrong, only your GM dealership can fix. Allegedly, they'll fix it. Yeah, let's just say I'm not a fan of it. And GM says, EV of the future, we're leaning more into it. Like I said, GM, your lack of quality as usual is certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Again, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button, greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down in the comments. Great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.